Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. Let people know I've gone live. And hi, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. Happy Halloween, ladies. Happy Halloween. Actually, that quote is actually from one of my very favorite movies of all time, Highlander. It's a movie, I think it was made in the mid 90s or early 90s. A movie specifically built around the past, the present, and the future. Super exciting, lots of action, a love story, and a story of potentials. And if you were looking for a movie for Halloween night, maybe through my suggestion, it might be something that you might, right, pick up tonight. I might try and find it online tonight. Great idea. Great movie for Halloween. It's not a scary movie, right? I used to love horror movies when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, if we were going to the theaters, I would be all about the horror movies. I really do believe it contributed to that not having nightmares. I never was anybody who was suffered through nightmares for the most part of my life. I think if I had a scary dream, it would have probably been a realistic dream, a dream that was maybe centered around my family. Not a big dreamer. As a mature adult, I don't remember my dreams. If I dream at all, I'm a pretty solid sleeper, but they say everybody dreams. Everybody does. And lots of people they go in for sleep apathy, people who can't sleep well or people who suffer from nightmares and stuff, and they go in for these studies and they say actually that everybody dreams. People wake up from these tests, and they say, oh no, I'm not dreaming, and then they're showing footage of their eyeballs underneath their eyelids darting back and forth, and people find that quite amazing, because I know I would be amazed if I was in deep sleep and I woke up in the morning and thinking that I wasn't dreaming, just to be shown of a video that I'm actually quite hyperactive in my sleep. I would find that curious, because as far as I know, I don't dream. At least at the very least, I don't recognize the instances when I dream. I don't have any residue or anything when I wake up, and that's the truth. It wasn't always the case, because I do remember there were times when I was quite active in my dreaming as a teenager, but as an adult, maybe it has something to do with being such a deep sleeper. Okay, you guys, this week we are hitting the topic of progress. And today, in contemplation, in all the progress that I was getting done, oh my goodness, right? I'm so happy the podium is now a part of my office desk setup. It's part of my project for getting cleaned up and organized. I just was able to move it out of the way. I got my living room back. So pleased I'll be able to properly sweep and wash my floor. I took that high chair that I was sitting in when I was doing my live shows, and I took it out to the hallway by the elevator, anticipating that somebody's gonna say score and drag it into their apartment. I didn't want it. This apartment is so small, I don't have room for furniture, right? I don't have room for things. And it was only something that I purchased for the studio setup. But this is my studio setup, right? We all like the comfy. And it's not because I need to be comfortable. Well, maybe I do, because in when we're comfortable, when we're in a state of comfortableness, uh, we can be enticed to move a little bit in that uncomfortable. Sitting in that chair, sitting at the podium, right, was kind of stiff for me in my lives. But I also understand, and in my lessons, I'm told, right, we're supposed to be comfortable. We're supposed to set up, right, our studio set up in a way that will compel us to show up, right, every single day or every single week, depending, right, in the lessons that you get. I show up here every day, fresh like a loaf of bread, but it's part of my brand, right? It's part of my movement. It's part of that progress that I want and expect to see for myself every single day, right? And sometimes that progress, right, is not necessarily attached to my brand, that I see my brand moving every single day, maybe inch by inch by inch. But my brand is me. My brand is my movement. My brand is that progress that I make each day. And sometimes that progress is needed in my personal life. Sometimes that progress is in my living experience, right? My living situation. Sometimes that progress is actually in that showing up every day and being the evidence in my own life to somebody else to say, oh my goodness, she made a little bit of movement. Maybe I can get up off the couch, right? Maybe I can put that remote control down. Maybe in that procrastination that I'm doing in the moment, right, I could stop it, right? And be able to make some choices. And that's what it comes down to, especially and for me, because for me, a lot of my movement was the lack of movement. It was the lack of initiative. It was in the procrastination. It was in that mirroring of everything in my life that said, no, you can't do it, right? No, you're a failure. And so when we look at progress for a word, and we're going to just look at it from my own perspective. And I thought today a good perspective to look at it was through the eyes of somebody who struggled with her weight and still struggles, right? But not so much as in my childhood and as a teenager, as a young adult, right? It was well into my late 20s before I had strange a strange acceptance of the person that I was, and in that acceptance it gave me a different perspective, but a perspective not to worry so much about it, right? Not to be so hyper focused in what I'm not getting right. For me, when we talk about progress, I don't know how good of uh let's say example I am to other people when it comes to my weight, because I was constantly failing in those diets that I was always on as a child. When I'm giving a lesson out in progress, I'm constantly being reminded of my failures. And so I thought maybe that progress we could look at today through the eyes of failure, right? Learning through our failures, learning through our mistakes, learning through not giving up and pulling ourselves up and trying again. That sometimes that's where we could really truly see a little bit of progress, because if you're anything like me, you need to see the evidence of something working in order to be enticed to try it again or to go at it a little bit more. Or you see sometimes in that failure, right? Because we really do learn as much from our mistakes as we do from failures. And you see me and hear me talking about it in these past, how many weeks now? 13 weeks. We're on our 13th word, which is progress this week, right? And sometimes we do make progress through the realizations of our failures, right? We didn't get that right. What did we do wrong there? Last week, when we were working on videos, right? And I'm coming out of, in the past half an hour, I was downloading all the footage that I want to use in my next video for my adventure, that my vacation that I went on. And so I downloaded it. And, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we have been struggling to get that holiday up, right? Back into the grind and learning to edit videos. And I did a lot of failing in the past couple of weeks. I am optimistic, right? Cautiously. Cautiously optimistic that maybe I might have resolved some of those failings that I had in the past couple of weeks to get those videos up, right? I kind of didn't make a promise, but I was excited that maybe I had some of those kinks I ironed out, that maybe tomorrow we might have the next video out from my trip. Cautiously optimistic, understanding that I made a lot of mistakes, but in those mistakes, I was finding solutions. I was finding the silliness of the pressure I was putting myself under, right? Like it was the end of the world if I didn't get my video up tomorrow. And actually having sessions out of frustration where I would just break down and cry and just, oh, this just isn't working for me. Why is this not working for me? Right? And then just having the gumption of just trying again. Because if you don't try, there is zero chance of getting a video up, is there? Right? If you don't try at all, there is zero chance. So I'll try. And if I fail, I'll try again. And if I fail, I'll try again. And then just at the moment where I'm saying, okay, if this doesn't work out, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe we'll take a break. Maybe we'll go for a walk. Maybe I'll give myself a pep talk. Maybe I'll ask for some help. Maybe I'll adapt and conquer. But all of that, right? All of that is progress, because those were not things that I would look into as solutions as to why I was failing, right? It would be like, I'm failing. Okay, that's it. Let's go make some popcorn. Let's watch something on TV, right? Let's go for a walk and calm that system down. But again, those are all progress, because those would have been lessons that I would have been clueless to realizing that maybe, possibly, it might help, right? I got a video up last week, and the week before I got a video up, but it wasn't pretty. It wasn't fun. It was frustrating. It was heartbreaking. It was discouraging. But because I didn't give up, because I adapted, I conquered, because I looked at those failings as lessons, right? Right? I failed. Yes, I did. Silly fails too, because in the end, you look at how you failed and you go, oh my goodness, it was that. That's what was stumping me. That's what was making me crash my computer and rebooting it and trying again. That's what it was. I could have blown up my laptop that I worked so hard to pay for, and I didn't need to. But it was in all those failings. It was in coming that close to giving up, or that close to blowing up my laptop, that it gives me these realizations that this is the progress. It is the struggle that moves us forward. It is in the realizations that we can, right, come that close to giving up before we can have some kind of breakthrough that helps to move us a little bit closer to what we want to achieve. And what I want to achieve is another video, right? And how fast I'm able to do that, well, I guess we'll find out tomorrow if I get a video up tomorrow, right? I got a lot of footage. I think I downloaded like at least 2 hours of footage, but we're going to see if we can get it into half an hour or 40-minute video. Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be lovely? And wouldn't it be lovely if it all came together in a storyboard that actually made sense, or that it actually made an impact, or it actually, right, calmed somebody's soul? Or, right, if you were watching this podcast tonight and then you go in to watch that video, to inspire you to possibly take a shot at it. How hard could it be? It could be hard. It can be hard. It could be frustrating. It could be heartbreaking. Could be totally discouraging. But in that, you might find that gumption in the evidence of watching me do it, in failing and trying again and experimenting, and right, that maybe you will realize that, hey, right, it might be bad, it might be uncomfortable, it might be frustrating, it might be discouraging, but at the same time, it might be exciting to see if you can figure it out. And if you do figure it out, that's progress, isn't it? And if you can figure it out and remember that you had progress, maybe you'll try it again and then realize, oh my goodness, I got it this time. It didn't take me 3 days to figure out this problem. It only took me a half an hour. And then maybe the next day be enticed to come in again and try again and realize, oh my goodness, it wasn't half an hour. It was like 15 minutes. And I had it wasn't pretty, but we got something together. We got something together, right? And you got it up. And we're just using the video as an example, but it could be any kind of project that you're working on. It's just because I work in social media, right, that I'm working in some of these videos in order to inspire and to motivate people, to help people realize that, if you don't give up, that maybe, right, that if you don't give up, that a solution might come across your path and you might realize something. And even in that is progress. And so you see that it's just in the movement. It's just in the not giving up. It's in the adapt and conquer. It is in the failing, right? And picking ourselves up and dusting off our knees and trying again, right? So we go back to my childhood and we're going to say, Cindy's failed a lot. But I looked at failure, and this is where the lesson is tonight, you guys. For me, I looked at today my contemplation and doing my projects around the house and seeing that progress, right? And that progress wasn't necessarily with my brand, but it was a little bit in my own mindset because I looked back at my childhood and I looked back at all those diets I was on, right? Just seemed like every week I was trying a new diet. I spent my whole life pretty much. Even now, right? I try to eliminate some things that I know that are not good for me, even though I enjoy them. And I know it's important that I should be able to enjoy my life and I should be able to enjoy eating these things. But because I don't understand um, capping off, right? That I can enjoy something for a few minutes without having to be compulsed to overly indulge in something, right? Just thinking like me and my jars of peanut butter. You put a jar of peanut butter in front of me, I will have it gone in 2 days. No kidding. Where most people could have a jar of peanut butter and sit in their fridge or their cupboard for a couple of weeks, right? But I do overindulge in those things that I truly love. But those are the lessons, and I try, and some of those I try by I'm trying to explain this. I eliminate things in my life that aren't good for me because I find if they're just not in my life, then I won't overindulge in them. But at the same time, right, these are things that I love. I love candy, but I don't eat candy anymore. And it was something that I eliminated out of my life probably close to 10 years ago. Now there are times that, around Christmas, right, with the homemade candy and stuff, and I let myself indulge in it because it's Christmas time. But I tell myself that it's Christmas baking, but in actuality it's pure sugar and I should consider it candy. And I don't know how I'm trailing off into that, but it's in that idea of my diets, right? And failing and always failing in my diets. But I looked at those failings in my diets, and this is where the difference is, right? I looked at myself as a loser in my failing to stay on a diet, right? Taking mindset lessons, it helps me to look at it in a different perspective, in a way to say, well, at least I tried, right? I went on the diet. I'm proud that I was able to stay on the diet for a week or 2 weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. Maybe I stayed on the diet for 6 months and I lost 60 pounds. And now all of a sudden I'm at the donut shop having a donut, right? But I didn't talk to myself that way, 20 years ago because I didn't understand mindset. I didn't understand to motivate myself, to be my own cheerleader, to look at the effort that I put in. And this was one of the biggest lessons. And this is why I show up every single day is just this one quote because I fail so much in my life. I fail so much in my endeavors, but I got big dreams and I have big goals. And it's like the Olympics. It's in that repeating, in the practicing of my craft. It's in the failing and the hiccups and the stumbles and the procrastination. Every lesson that I fail in, and then but I don't talk to myself like I did when I failed in those diets. Oh, you're such a loser, Cindy. You can't even stay on a diet. Right? Right? And I was an obese child. I was an obese adult. And this is how I felt about myself consistently, right? Because I was consistently on a diet. So I would have consistently talked to myself like I was a loser, right? In my failings, in my attempt to get some control over my weight, to get myself into a into a fitting so that I could look nice in clothes, or right, then I wouldn't have to listen to people always giving me their advice and this special diet that they know that it works. But I would do everything I could to try to keep that weight off, and then fail in that. And sometimes that fail was a bit of a sabotage on my part. Sometimes that was a sabotage on other people's part, because for us, we know dieting can be very expensive. Those healthy foods can be very pricey. And so being in a state where I didn't have an abundant mindset, also, and my family didn't, right? Obviously, that when we would find ourselves in financial situation, well, Cindy would be off her diet because they couldn't afford the expensive food, the expensive fruit, the expensive meat, those things, right? The wheat germ, the vitamins, right? That I would be right. And so it would be a little bit of a sabotage, but it would be a need in that, right? So I would be taken off my diet in order that the bag of rice could come into the household, and we could live on rice for a month until we could get back on our feet, or we'd be on the craft dinner because it was just cheap, cheap, cheap. Now it's not so cheap. I guess it's still fairly cheap when you look at other food items, but they're not even true food items. They are zero food that offer no nutrients at all. They're just filler. But back, because we know Cindy goes down those side branches, right? But that idea that I felt like a loser. Now, one of those biggest lessons in this process, you guys, and this is important for you guys, because when you're going for big things, when you're setting goals, there are always failures. There is always struggle, because you're moving into something you're unfamiliar with, and it takes a while to build up that practice to be good at whatever you want to be good at. It takes all kinds of different kinds of resources, monetary, emotionally, mentally, physically, to set about going for these goals. So we're not just practicing and working towards those goals, we're improving on all those different aspects of ourselves, right? And we beat ourselves up when we fail in those, right? Instead of being proud that we even tried, right? We failed in that, right? I fail in things that I set out, little goals for myself, probably every single day, right? Things come across my path, come across my mind, and sometimes I munch on them, sometimes that I don't. I wanted to research this word beguiled. Something huge came to me today, right? But something about the light, when it was referred to the light, and the reference to the light was the innocence, the beguiled, and the beyond. And I wasn't quite sure what this word beguiled was. Kind of beguiled. It sounds kind of mystical. It sounds kind of awestruck. This is what comes to my mind. But right? I was supposed to Google it. And just having that conversation just now just kind of reminded me. And I got the paper here, and I'll be looking back on it because it's a pretty big revelation for me today. But it was something for me to contemplate in all the things that I got done. Progress was done today. Serious, right? And I could beat myself up for all those extra things that I said I was going to do this weekend, but I can't because I checked them all off the box today. But I don't always do that. I got 6 loads of laundry to do, or 6 loads of laundry done today, right? I hogged those washers and dryers all day long. Just finished up. Got some projects done around the house. Got all my footage down onto my laptop, ready for editing, right? We're going to see if we can get a video up tomorrow. That's the challenge. I may fail in that, but this lesson that I said, right? That we have to carry this idea with us all the time, and we have to constantly, every day if you have to, remind ourselves, right? At least we're trying, right? And this lesson comes again, Evan Carmichael, right? And this quote, you got to be proud of the effort. You've got to be proud of the effort because there are lots of people out there who are not even trying. And when you're going for the gold medal, right? If you're not failing, if you're not crashing, if you're not falling, if you're not bad mouthing yourself or bad mouthing somebody else, right? Then you're not doing it properly, right? That agitation has to be there when there's change going on because, again, change is unknown and change is uncomfortable. And for highly sensitives and for empaths, it's hard to make, and am I saying that again? Should I share this? Should I share this? Because maybe this is something that's for somebody else. It came to me this morning. I don't know. I haven't taken a look at it deep enough for myself. So we're just going to leave this for now, right? And if I'm compelled to share it, I'm not feeling that compelled there to share it. But it did come across my path. And because, okay. Yeah, no, I don't want to work. I don't want to work through this now. You guys, I do apologize, but then again, it's in these moments of contemplation. It is in these moments of working these things out for ourselves. And because I show up here fresh like a loaf of bread every single day, you get a lot of me working it through on my life because, right, I show up here in sharing the lessons, in being that little drummer girl, and right, not having those funds to be the true philanthropist that I want to be, that, that those monetary things to take care of people. But I think philanthropy sometimes comes in that compassion and sometimes in that understanding and sometimes in that action of giving what you can give, right? And this is what I can give. I can give my experience in that idea that possibly somebody else might be having the same experience themselves. And then, right, be able to look at it through somebody else's perspective rather than something that we compulsed about or something we didn't even work through because, right, all those failures that finally it just was too painful that we just gave up and we didn't want to go any further, right? That we didn't want to go any further, that sometimes that we quit too soon, right? And the only reason that I haven't quit is this idea that I am making progress because I understand, right, that my purpose comes from my pain. My purpose comes from my pain, right? We can't go back there. We can't go back there and resolve those issues and make it right again, right? But what we can do is make realizations in those mistakes, in those lack of understandings, and through those procrastinations, because a lot of those things we knew what we should have done, but we never did it, right? Because we got so stuck in that Mogmire, that blah, blah, blah. We got stuck in that, right? We got stuck in that. It was just too slow. And then sometimes, right, you get comfortable in that slowness, and it's better, right? The couch and remote control, right? Good television show, right? Nice and peace and quiet, and a bowl of popcorn. But where is that going to get you, right? It's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to get me. It's not going to get me anywhere. And it's right. And so being busy in any part of my life is a good sign, because right, I naturally do want to flake. That's just my nature. But I wouldn't get the beautiful landscapes. I wouldn't get the excitement of planning my vacation every year. I wouldn't get the honor of the privilege of being able to have some of those answers that I've always asked my entire life, and just bumped into a wall, or just made to stay in my spot and just be grateful for the scraps that came across my table, right? Rather than being able to realize that I matter, right? That I can make some choices for myself, right? I can create the best human being I possibly can be. And maybe that would be enough for somebody to realize that maybe they could do the same. So I show up here fresh like a loaf of bread every single day, little drummer girl with whatever I have. That day is coming, I know, right? But it may be next year, next week, maybe 10 years down the road. Maybe it's in my next lifetime, right? Am I just supposed to sit here and wait for it to come to me? Or do I start making that movement, right? So that when it does come to me, I'm going to know what to do with it, right? I'm going to know how to feel about it. I'm going to know how to share it, right? How to explain it. So I'm going to allow myself to fail, right? Understanding that I can follow back onto that one phrase, right? I'm going to be proud of the effort. I'm going to try, right? At the very least, I'm going to try, because there are people out there who are not even trying. They don't even realize that they have a choice to try, right? Those baby steps, just thinking about it is movement, right? Just thinking about it is movement. But you have to have movement, and that's the thing, right? There is no progress, there is no movement unless we make that choice and take some kind of action on that choice, right? That's where the progress comes from, right? So if you fail, right, don't call yourself a liar, or a liar. You're not a liar. Don't call yourself a loser. It was an L. First word started with an L, right? Don't call yourself a loser, right? Because at least you tried, right? Don't call yourself a loser, because you know you're going to get up, dust your knees off, and you're going to try again, right? You might need a moment to regroup, to recuperate, right? I learned that from you, Nancy. I tell ya, this is Nancy, dear. This is one of my regulars on my Chatters Live, and she never gives up on anything. and life comes at her and she makes progress, constant progress, right? Sometimes our limitations, right? We all have limitations. Some of them are physical, some of them are mental, some of them are emotional, right? But it's only in our choices that we can sit in it and be miserable and stew in it. And, right? Nancy, wow, Nancy might not even have a roof over her head if she didn't make her own choices. If she waited for somebody to come and rescue her, right, Nancy? Could you imagine the situation you would be in right now, Nancy, if you had waited for somebody to come and save you, right? And that's why I have this problem with with I was going to say, this is why I have a problem with, come to me, come back to me. Oh my goodness, brain fart after brain fart tonight. But I have been deep in it, right? Housework, chores, time by myself. This is the first time I've spoken to anybody today. Yeah, this is the first time I've spoken to anybody today. Yesterday, I hung up a sign for my sister. Oh no, it was today. My sister popped by this morning. She had a picture of her dog because she lived in this building and everybody in this building loved her dog. And she had her dog put down today. I felt so bad for my sister. My heart just broke for her, right? She said it was the hardest thing she ever had to do, right? Wait till one of her sisters go, or right? It's just right. We love each other so much, right? But we love our pets too, right? We do love our pets. My sister Alice has always been a dog person. The rest of us have always been cat people. But my sister Alice, she loves her dogs, right? Um, but yeah, so she put a little sign up just to let everybody know that Jojo had passed away. He was a very old dog, 15 years old. It was time. And my sister gave this dog a very, very wonderful life, right? But she made that choice. My sister made that choice, right? And it's an uncomfortable choice, right? Some of those choices that we have to make in order to make that progress. And that progress was for the dog too, because you don't want the dog to suffer. You don't want it to be in pain. You don't want it to be uncomfortable, right? But at the same time, in that progress, my sister was dedicating a lot of time to that dog. She lost a lot of time at work because that dog was not well. And so she lets her employers down, right? Her employers have to accommodate that time off. There's medication and doctor's fees. I mean, she had the vet come right to her house. I didn't know the vets did that, but the vet came right to her house. And at the same time, my sister has been putting her life on hold, right? We take responsibility and accountability when we bring the pets on into our lives, right? But if you look at it in caregivership, right? Like, the caregivers, when our parents get older and we start to take care of our parents, or we have a friend who's struggling and stuff, and we take care of our friends and take care of their needs and stuff. There comes a time when that joy will be sucked out of us, because being sensitives, right? And empathic, that we give until, right, there's nothing left for us. And then when these sad situations they hit us harder, right? They're harder to crawl out of. And I had to remind my sister, right? It's not the moment now to say, right, that take a look, this is all wonderful stuff is going to happen. But keep it in mind, Alice, right, that she'll be able to go away on trips. She'll go away on her vacations, and she'll be able to have her paychecks, right? Because she'll be able to work her shifts. that's progress. That's life. That's evolution. And that's what all of this is evolution. This idea of just moving forward, just keep going, and we just pick up the lessons along the way. We adapt and conquer and make these hard decisions along the way. We fail and crash, but as long as we get up and brush off our knees and try something else, try it a different way, hack at that same situation with just a little bit of a tweak, that eventually, right? If we don't give up, right? If when we do hit that wall, right, we can be proud of that effort, right? And then just again, crank ourselves around and try something else, pivot, right? Make a choice. Make a choice. I've pivoted so many times, make your head spin, right? Where I am now is not where I was 10 years ago. Where I am now is not where I was 5 years ago. In fact, I have to say, revelations this morning, where I was this morning is not where I am right now. And that could be the truth, and that should be the truth for everybody out there, right? But there's a lot of, right, crash landings and instantly, right? Don't want any part of this. There's no path back, right? There's no going back. We have changed so much. And that's something that a lot of people are going to have a hard time accepting, right? Set their goals, reach their goals, right? Create the life that they deserve, they want, they expect. And it might not even work out that way, right? But we're going to be proud of our efforts. And that's not my lesson, but I'm passing on that lesson because that's what keeps me going in the difficult times. That's what keeps me going when it's seems like it's failing or it's not going my way, or when I'm frustrated, or it just seems scary, or it just seems so big, or I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? That I just keep reminding myself, right? I'm proud of the effort. I'm proud of the effort I put in today, right? Might not look anything like the way I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be here like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and here it is going on at 9 o'clock at night. But it is what it is. And I accomplished in that span, right? I made some movement, right? I made some movement, and I'm here sharing that experience, right? Sharing that experience as part of that accountability to myself, because I do show up here fresh like a loaf of bread. And if I failed myself or I failed anybody else in that showing up tonight, right? All I can do is apologize, brush my knees off, and try again tomorrow, right? Knowing that each day that I show up, and this is the truth, you can go back into my lives. I've been doing these lives for years now. I wish I had written the date down, but every single day, except for that vacation that I do every year, that's for me. But even in that reward is a reward because, right, as a little drummer girl, I'm sharing that adventure after the fact. But that's the evidence, right? That's the evidence that you can do it too, right? If you want to, if you want to make that movement, if you want to make any kind of movement, make that choice and then just get cracking. Just start those baby steps. What's the smallest way that you can get going on it, right? And you may fail. More than likely, you might fail. Probably fail. You will fail. Why don't you just go into it saying you're going to fail, right? Just expect to fail and allow yourself to fail. And then maybe, right, why don't you give yourself a little pat on the back, make yourself a cup of coffee, right? Talk to a friend about it, right? And I bet you they would be really, really impressed that you even tried, right? When they spent the whole day laying on the couch with the remote control. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer. I'm going to give this some contemplation and I'll let you know tomorrow whether or not I'll share it or if it was just for something for down the road. But like I said, I think I made a good decision there not to. Right? I gotta roll it around in my own mouth, taste it, digest it, understand it, right? It's pretty clear, but I think there's more to it than what I'm reading into it, but we'll give it a shot and see if something new comes out of it, and maybe there won't be. But if there isn't, right? If there isn't, that's okay because I'll just pivot and I'll just move towards something else, or I'll contemplate as to, well, why did this come to my path? What does this mean then? Right? And I won't compulse about it because I've got the lesson sitting right here, but I'll just go about, right? Whatever's next, knowing that if it needs attention, something will come across my path and we'll be right back into that mix. Okay, you guys. Ah, I know, I know. A lot of what I do, though, is in contemplation. But I get what you're saying, Nancy. Action right away. And it works too. It works. And the thing is, and it's funny that you say this because this revelation came to me this morning. It was ignited or triggered by somebody else, and then I went right into it, and then I totally forgot about it. I totally forgot about it. And I don't think I even wrote it down, but I took it all in, and then it was later on in the afternoon and I was taking in another lesson and it came across my path again and I went, "Oh my goodness, there it is again." And so that's when I wrote it all down because I had totally forgotten about it. If it hadn't come across my path the second time in that repetitiveness, if it hadn't come across my path the second time, it would have been gone. And it was I think pretty it was pretty important, I think, in what I'm doing, at least in better understanding in what I'm doing. Aw, thank you, Nancy. I'll pass that on to my sister Alice, right? She was very, very sad today. I gave her a big hug. I could feel it. It was just one of the hardest days for her. And yeah. She went back to work today too. But I think that's good for her. I find that work is good medicine for those sad moments. I have found in my life that working through those difficult moments can help to get you through it 100%. It's not a matter of putting those heartbreaks and that grief on a shelf for another day, but it's making it so that you're too busy in the moment, right? That you're just allowing it to have certain moments for it to be able to come to the surface, because it can't help when you have a bath, or when you're doing the dishes, like those moments that are mindless actions, right? That's when those thoughts come to you. So right, hopefully she can just stay busy, 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 right? And then right? That pain will slowly dissipate. Heartbreak, grief, the only cure, right, is talking, crying, and time, right? Time takes care of it. Really, that is true, and I've found that to be the case in my life in different circumstances over and over and over again. So that's something that I can easily believe in, right? Talking, crying, and time. Yeah, it's a good cure all. It is. It is. Okay, you guys, we'll see each other tomorrow. We're still working on this word progress. We'll come at it with a different perspective. A different perspective. It's a good word this week. It's a good word for me because I'm trying to make some progress. I'm trying to make some movement, right? But trying isn't doing, right? But trying is something that you're doing. If you think of it that way, trying, trying is doing, is what I meant. Trying is doing, right? It's just not always accomplishing, right? It's working towards the gold medal, right? You got to win the worlds first. Okay, you guys, see you tomorrow. Bye bye.